Say it again, Darius growled. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. In Yardsey, his voice had weight, the kind that made men straighten their backs without realizing, the kind that made newer inmates swallow their pride instantly. But the new guy, he didn't move. He just sat there, elbows on his knees, staring at the dirt like it was more interesting than the mountain of muscle towering over him. Darius stepped closer, his shadow swallowing the bench. I'm talking to you, boy. You hear me? The new inmate lifted his head an inch, eyes calm, half-lidded, like he'd been dragged from a dream he didn't care much for. I heard you, he said. His voice was quiet, smooth, too smooth for a place built on concrete, sweat, and men who screamed threats to hide their fear. Darius smirked. You got a mouth on you for someone who just got processed. A couple of inmates nearby chuckled. The sound wasn't friendly. It was the kind of laugh men made when they smelled entertainment coming. Blood, maybe. A broken jaw if the day went well. The new guy brushed a piece of lint off his sleeve. I said, Darius repeated, leaning down until their faces were inches apart. Say it again. The yard went still. Cards paused midair. Weights hung motionless above chests. Conversations cut off like someone pulled a plug. Even the guards on the tower leaned forward because everyone knew Darius. And everyone knew what he wanted. He wanted a show. The new guy finally looked up fully. Eyes dark, deep, not scared, not bravado either, just unreadable. Like he'd seen worse men than Darius in places darker than this yard. I said, he repeated, voice low, steady, I'm not moving from this bench. And that was the moment the whole yard clenched, ready for the explosion. Darius blinked, then laughed, one sharp, humorless bark. You think this your bench? He asked. You think anything here belongs to you? No. Then get up. No. Darius's jaw flexed. You really want to die today, huh? The new guy tilted his head, studying the bully like he was some specimen behind glass. If you wanted me dead, he said softly, you wouldn't be talking. The yard erupted with reactions. Oh, he bowled. He don't know who he talking to. Man's dead by lunch. Darius's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes tightened. The new inmate didn't know it yet. Or maybe he did. But Darius wasn't just some random thug who swung fists for fun. Darius had spilled blood in places cameras didn't reach. He grabbed the new guy by the collar and yanked him to his feet, fast and hard enough that his shoes scraped against the concrete. You got one more chance, Darius hissed. Get off my bench. For the first time, the new guy's expression shifted just slightly. Not fear, not aggression, understanding. You're trying to see if I'll fold, he said, because men who fold are easy to own. Darius's nostrils flared. And what makes you think? You're wrong. The new inmate cut in. The yard froze a second time. You're not testing me, he continued, voice low, controlled. You're trying to see if you still scare people. A ripple went through the watching inmates. Shock, disbelief, anticipation. The new guy continued. Someone like you? Someone who needs an audience every time he throws a punch. His voice dropped into a whisper. That's not power. That's insecurity with muscles wrapped around it. And right there, in that exact moment, the yard knew something shifted. Darius's eyes darkened. His hand balled into a fist. But the new guy added one more line, and this was a line that changed everything. Besides, you picked the wrong man to shove today. Darius leaned in, breath hot with anger. And why is that? The new man raised his wrist slightly. A tattoo, a small black star, peeked out from under his sleeve. Darius's entire expression changed. Only for a second. Only visible if you watched close. But he recognized it. The star. The same symbol he saw carved on the shoulder of an inmate who died 3 years ago during a riot that wasn't supposed to get out of hand. The same symbol tied to a story Darius prayed nobody would ever dig up. The same symbol that haunted him on quiet nights. Darius stepped back half an inch. Barely. Almost invisible. But the yard noticed. Everyone noticed. The new guy watched it with eyes that finally had a spark. Not rage, not challenge. Purpose. He leaned forward and whispered, "You remember it, don't you?" Darius swallowed. Too late. The new guy already saw the fear flicker. "So yeah," he said, settling his shoulders, "you shoved the wrong man today." Darius forced a grin, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You talk too much, and you listen too little." Darius's fist lifted, but the new guy's hand shot up gentle, almost respectful, placing 2 fingers on Darius's chest. A tap, not a strike. A warning, a message. Darius froze, not because of the touch, but because of how the new guy positioned himself, the exact stance. That stance. He'd seen it once before, during the riot, during the fight that ended with a body bag. A fight Darius had been part of. No, this couldn't be. The new guy sighed. "You don't recognize my face," he said quietly, "but you'll recognize my name." He stepped back, hand behind his back, calm as a monk. "My name is Eli." And that name hit Darius like a steel bat to the ribs. The yard reacted instantly. Voices broke out. "Eli, the Eli, hold up, is that?" Darius's throat tightened. "You," he whispered. "You can't be." But Eli just stared, the ghost of a smile on his lips. "I'm exactly who you think I am." For a second, nobody breathed. "Eli." The name floated through the yard like smoke, thin, quiet, choking the men who recognized it. On the tower, one of the older guards stiffened. Down by the fence, an inmate dropped his deck of cards. Near the weights, a man with graying hair muttered under his breath, "Hell no. Thought he was just a story." Darius didn't move. He couldn't. "Eli." "How?" Darius whispered. His voice sounded different now. Smaller, rougher, like gravel being crushed. Eli just watched him, eyes steady, chest rising and falling like this was a conversation at a bus stop, and not a ticking bomb in the middle of a prison yard. "You remember my name," Eli said. "Good." Darius's jaw clenched. He did remember. 3 years ago, this place had been a war zone for exactly 22 minutes. They called it a riot. They called it inmate conflict. They called it unfortunate escalation. They never called it what it was. A setup, a cleanup, a message. And in the middle of all of it, there'd been a kid. Thin, young, eyes full of stubborn fire. Same star tattoo. Eli's brother. Darius had never seen someone fight that hard with that little chance to win. It was supposed to be easy. Hold him. Rough him up. Make sure he didn't accidentally make it a roll call. But the kid fought like every punch was a prayer and every breath was his last. He died anyway. Darius hadn't forgotten that face. And now the same eyes, older, colder, sharper, were staring right at him. "You're dead," Darius muttered, moored himself into Eli. "You're supposed to be dead." "You." "That's the thing about stories," Eli cut in. "People add details." The yard was hanging on every word. Eli continued, voice calm, almost soft. "They said I died over a debt, over a card game, over a pack of cigarettes. That I picked the wrong fight." A faint smile. "They always make it sound like the dead deserve what they got. Makes sleep easier, right?" Darius swallowed hard. "Your brother," he started. Eli's eyes flashed. "Don't say his name," he said quietly. "You don't get to use it." Darius shut up. A few men in the back shifted uncomfortably. They'd heard bits and pieces over the years. Rumors. Whispers in the dark. A kid with a star tattoo who knew some kind of strange fighting style. A riot that shouldn't have blown up the way it did. A glitch in the security cameras at the exact wrong moment. The official file said the kid died in a riot. The unofficial truth? There were 3 men holding him down. 2 inmates. 1 guard. And someone higher had signed off on it. Darius had told himself for 3 straight years that he'd had no choice. Now that lie stood in front of him in human form. Eli took a slow step forward. Darius didn't back away, but his body wanted to. "You know what they told my family?" Eli asked. The yard went so quiet you could hear chain links rattle in the wind. "They told my mother," Eli said slowly, "that her son was a violent criminal who died attacking officers. that he started it, that he was out of control, that they did everything they could to save him. A shadow of something like grief crossed his face, but they forgot something. Eli lifted his wrist again. The star tattoo caught the light. They forgot they sent that letter to a house where there was another son, one who loved his brother more than his own life, one who knew the real story. Darius tried to steady his breathing. "You don't know what happened," he snapped, grabbing onto anger like a life raft. "You weren't here. You weren't." Eli chuckled. It wasn't a pleasant sound. "Funny you say that," he murmured. "You'd be surprised how much you can learn if you spend 3 years talking to the right people." He looked up at the tower for a brief second. The guard captain, Reed, was standing there, arms crossed, sunglasses on. But Eli knew he was watching. "I know what started the riot," Eli said. "I know who unlocked the wrong doors. I know who turned off the cameras. I know who paid who with what." His gaze slid back to Darius. "And I know you were there, holding my brother down." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Darius's mouth opened, then closed. His mind scrambled for the script he always used. "It wasn't me. I didn't have a choice. You don't understand how it works in here." But none of those lines sounded strong enough with Eli in front of him. The new guy, Eli, stepped even closer. They were chest to chest now. "You want to hit me?" Eli asked quietly. "Make an example out of me? Prove you still run this yard." Darius's fist twitched. "You don't get to talk to me like—" "You already lost," Eli interrupted, voice barely above a whisper. "You just don't know which part of yourself you lost yet." The words cut deeper than anything loud and flashy. Darius laughed again, but this time his voice cracked. "You came here for what?" "Revenge," he spat. "You think you special? You think this place care about your sob story? Bro, this is prison. People die. That's what happens." Eli's eyes darkened, not with surprise, but with confirmation. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" Darius snapped. "For reminding me I didn't come here to find you," Eli said quietly. "I came here to find what's left of my brother, in the men who killed him." He tilted his head. "So let's see what pieces of him are still stuck to you." Darius didn't understand, not until Eli moved. It was fast. Too fast. 1 second, Eli was standing there, relaxed. The next, his hand snapped up, gripping Darius's wrist, the one closest to his face. Not hard, not brutal, just precise. He twisted. It looked like nothing. But Darius dropped to one knee, eyes wide, breath leaving his lungs in a broken wheeze. Pain exploded up his arm, not like a hit, not like a broken bone, but like his nerves were being unplugged all at once. "What the?" he gasped. The yard exploded again. "What'd he do?" "Yo," Darius kneel in. "What kind of move was that?" Eli didn't gloat, didn't smile. He crouched down slightly, so his lips were right by Darius's ear. "You remember this?" he murmured. "This hold." Darius's mind flashed back. Blood on concrete. A younger boy thrashing. The same angle of the wrist. The guard barking, "Hold him still." Darius had used this exact lock to pin Eli's brother. Eli loosened his grip, just enough for Darius to breathe, but not stand. "You felt powerful then, didn't you?" Eli whispered, holding down somebody smaller, telling yourself it wasn't your choice, that you were just doing what you had to. Darius's eyes burned. "Shut up," he rasped. "You told yourself you didn't kill him." Eli continued, his voice almost gentle. "Someone else threw the final punch. Someone else called time of death. Someone else signed the papers. You were just—" "What?" "A pair of hands." A tear slipped out of the corner of Darius's eye, more from humiliation than pain. "You don't understand," Darius choked. "They—" Eli's hand tightened again, a warning. "Don't say they," he said. "Say I." "Try it." Darius gritted his teeth. Around them, every man watched, not just a fight, but the humiliation. A king kneeling. A ghost asking for confession. Eli's voice dropped even softer. "Say it," he insisted. "Say." I held him down. Darius shook his head. Eli applied the slightest pressure. Pain roared through Darius's arm, his shoulder, up his spine. His voice broke. He swallowed. I held him down. Silence. Even the wind seemed to pause. Eli let go. Darius collapsed the rest of the way to the ground, clutching his arm. Eli straightened up, calm again, hands loose at his sides. He looked around the yard, at every face, every stare, every man pretending they weren't shaken. This is just the beginning, Eli said quietly. He turned his eyes to the tower one more time. The captain was still up there, still watching. Eli held his gaze. I'm not here to start fights, he said. I'm here to finish one. He stepped back from Darius, giving him space to stand if he wanted. Darius stayed on his knees, not because he couldn't move, because for the first time since his first day locked up, he didn't know who he was anymore. Darius didn't move for nearly a full minute, not because of the pain. He'd taken worse. Not because of the humiliation, though that cut deeper than any knife. He didn't move because something in Eli's eyes pulled him back into a memory he'd spent 3 years trying to bury under anger, steroids, and denial. Fear. Real fear. The kind you feel when your mind knows something your body refuses to admit. And that fear spread across the yard like a disease. Men who feared nothing, who survived stabbings, lockdowns, and nights when nobody slept, now watched Eli like he was the wrong kind of quiet. The quiet that meant danger. Eli didn't acknowledge the gazes. He didn't strut or flex or smile. He just walked, calm, steady, hands behind his back like he was taking a stroll through a park instead of a yard full of killers. He was heading towards cell block D. His block, the block where everything would begin. A guard stepped in front of him as he reached the gate. Yard time ain't over, Officer Tate said, tapping his baton against his boot. You don't get to walk away after pulling that stunt. Eli looked at him. Really looked. Tate's grip slipped. Just a bit. I thought inmates were encouraged to avoid confrontation, Eli said, his tone polite enough to sound sarcastic. Tate cleared his throat and pulled his shoulders back. In this prison, you don't get to decide when. You're trembling, Eli said quietly. Tate froze. He was. A bead of sweat slid down his neck despite the cool air. You okay? Eli asked. It didn't sound mocking. It sounded like a genuine question. That made it worse. Tate stepped aside without another word. The other inmates exchanged looks. Eli didn't walk like a new guy. Didn't carry himself like someone learning the politics. He walked like a man who already knew the rules. And didn't care. Darius finally staggered his feet, rage bubbling in his veins. This ain't over, he shouted after Eli. Eli didn't turn around. It wasn't over 3 years ago, he said. This part is just overdue. A few inmates made sounds, surprised laughs, low whistles, damn S under their breath. Darius hated them all in that moment, but not as much as he hated himself. Inside cell block D, the block smelled like old sweat, bleach, and metal that hadn't been replaced since the 90s. Eli entered without hesitation. He scanned the tiers like he was mapping them, noting exits, blind spots, which cells were occupied by who. Not one inmate missed it. You could hide your past in here. You couldn't hide your training. And Eli moved like someone who'd studied more about anatomy than textbooks ever taught. He turned left, heading for his cell, D14. A large inmate named Big Morrell stepped into his path. A tattooed monster with a jaw like a cinder block. He raised a hand as if to block Eli's chest. You pissed off Darius, Morrell said. That means you on Darius's list. Eli nodded like he already knew. You want a warning about that? Morrell asked. No, Eli said. I want something else. Morrell's brow scrunched. What? Information. Morrell looked around. You trying to get me shanked? Only fools ask questions their first week. Eli took one step closer. Not aggressive. Just close enough that Morrell could smell how calm he was. I'm not asking as a new inmate, Eli said quietly. I'm asking as the brother of a man who died here. Morrell's eyes widened. You. He glanced around quickly. Not here. Not in the open. Cameras always glitch around this tier. Come on. Morrell led him toward the showers, empty during mid-yard. The metal door clanged shut behind them. You gotta be out of your damn mind. Morrell muttered. Walking, round saying stuff like that. Eli leaned against the tiled wall, like he had all day. I don't have time to waste. Morrell rubbed his face. Your brother, he whispered. He died in Block C. Not here. I know. Then why? Because the man who held him first was Darius, Eli said. And the man who told Darius what to do is somewhere in this block. Morrell froze. How you know that? I've had 3 years to listen, Eli said. People talk more than they think, especially when they think nobody's listening. Morrell swallowed. You treading on something dangerous. I'm counting on it. Morrell leaned in. You really came in here just for revenge? Eli didn't blink. No. Morrell paused. Then what? Eli's voice turned colder. I came for the truth. Morrell let out a shaky breath. Damn. Eli stepped closer, lowering his voice. Morrell, who paid Darius? Morrell shook his head instantly. Nope. Not saying that. Not even to a ghost walk-in. That name is suicide. I didn't ask for the name, Eli said. I asked for direction. Morrell stared at him, tense, conflicted, scared. Finally, he pointed upward. Tier 3, Cell 32. Eli nodded once. Thank you. He turned to leave, but Morrell grabbed his wrist. You ain't hear me, Morrell hissed. You go to that cell, you don't come back. He'll kill you. Eli met his eyes. That's fine, he said. I stopped caring about living the day they killed my brother. Morrell froze. All the emotion behind that line. It wasn't acted. It wasn't bravado. It was dead truth. Eli walked out of the showers. Morrell watched him go with a shiver crawling up his spine. That boy ain't here to survive, Morrell whispered. He here to haunt. The tower watches. Guard Captain Reed stood in the tower, hands tight on the railing. He'd watched the whole yard scene. Watched Darius kneel. Watched Eli walk away without fear. He took off his sunglasses. His eyes were sharp now. Focused. He muttered to himself. I should have burned that damn file. He picked up the radio. Send 2 officers to tail the new inmate in Block D. Keep him contained. Eyes on him at all times. Static crackled. Captain, which inmate? Reed's jaw tightened. The one with the star tattoo. Silence. You mean? Yes. Reed snapped. He looked out over the yard again. Eli was gone. But Reed felt him, like a storm rolling in. He's here for something, Reed whispered. And if he finds it, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. He already knew. If Eli found the truth, everything was going to burn. Eli waited until lights out, not because he feared being seen, but because darkness was honest. When the fluorescent lights died and the block sank into black, men stopped pretending. That was when truth surfaced. He sat on his bunk, back straight, feet planted, breathing steady. He wasn't meditating. He was remembering. 3 years. 3 years of tracking names. 3 years of replaying the riot from every angle. 3 years of replaying the sound his mother made when she got the letter. 3 years of planning. He opened his eyes as footsteps echoed down the tier. 2 guards. Reed's order. They walked past his cell slowly, flashlights cutting through shadows like knives. Eli didn't move, didn't blink, didn't reveal he heard every step, every shift, every breath. When their lights faded, he stood up. It was time. The climb to Tier 3. Eli stepped out of the cell with silent precision. Some men snored. Some whispered. Some tossed in nightmares that never left them. But a few inmates were awake and watching. One lifted his chin in a silent question. Eli didn't respond. Another nodded like he understood something nobody else did. Eli didn't acknowledge him either. Respect in prison wasn't given with nods. It was given through fear or purpose. And Eli walked like a man who had both. He reached the staircase. Old metal. Rust whispers under each step. The kind of staircase that remembered every fight that ever spilled on it. He climbed anyway, row by row, shadow by shadow. Tier 3, the dead tier. It wasn't written anywhere, but everyone knew it. If a man disappeared in this prison, if someone got transferred quietly, if someone ended up in an infirmary with accidental injuries. It usually started here. Eli reached the top. Cell 32 was at the far end, exactly where ghosts like to live. He walked there slowly, every sense open. Men behind bars watched him silently. Not one spoke. Not one warned him. Not because they didn't want to. Because nobody interfered with fate. Eli stopped outside cell 32. A single dim light flickered inside. Something about the air felt colder here. He stood still, listening. Nothing. Then a voice floated out from the darkness. You took longer than I expected. Eli's jaw tightened. The voice was old, burned, low, but familiar in a way that made his skin prickle. Eli didn't speak, didn't move. The voice chuckled softly. You watching me or you coming in? Eli stepped forward. The small window slit glowed faintly. Inside was a silhouette seated on a lower bunk. A man with shoulders like stone, hair shaved, arms heavily tattooed with symbols Eli didn't recognize. He was calm, too calm. Close the door behind you, the man said. I can't close the cell door, Eli replied. You can, the man said. They don't lock from the outside on this tier. Eli wasn't surprised. Tier 3 had its own rules. He pushed the heavy door. It shut with a sound that felt like the beginning of something irreversible. The man in the shadows leaned forward slightly. That tattoo, the man said, eyes flicking Eli's wrist. Your brother had the same one. He said it meant loyalty. Eli didn't flinch. You knew him? Knew him? The man repeated, almost amused. Kid, practically lived in this cell some days. Used to sit right there. He tapped the edge of the metal bed frame. Said he liked the quiet. Eli's hands curled slightly. This man knew his brother personally. What's your name? Eli asked. The man stood up slowly, muscles moving like coiled rope. Tall, broad, a presence that filled a room. My name, he said, is Bishop. Eli's stomach tightened. He knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Bishop, the man whose file was sealed. The inmate who'd been in this prison longer than some of the guards had been alive. The man rumored to have built half the gangs and destroyed the other half. The man who survived 6 wardens. The man whose orders started wars, or ended them. Your brother, Bishop said quietly, was the only person who ever walked in here without fear. Eli swallowed hard. What happened to him, he asked. Bishop studied him for a moment. You already know what happened, Bishop said. You want to know who? Eli nodded once. Bishop walked to the far corner. Eli's eyes tracked every motion, every angle. But Bishop didn't reach for a weapon. He reached for something hidden behind a loose piece of wall concrete. A notebook. Old. Pages crinkled. Edges frayed. He tossed it onto the bed between them. Eli's heart thudded once. What is this? Your brother's, Bishop said. He wrote every day. Then one day, he didn't write any more. Eli stared at the notebook like it was radioactive. He reached for it slowly. The cover was soft with age. Inside were pages filled with handwriting, messy, quick, emotional. He flipped through names, notes, drawings, and then a paragraph circled with thick pen lines. If something happens to me, it's because of him. He warned me once. Said I should keep quiet. Said I asked the wrong questions. Said this prison ain't what it looks like. Below it, name, Captain Reed. Eli went still. Reed, the guard captain. The man in the tower today. The man who stared down at him like he'd seen a ghost. Eli looked up at Bishop. Why didn't you tell anyone? He asked, voice tight. Bishop shrugged. I ain't anyone. That's a lie, Eli hissed. Bishop smirked slightly. You think I run this place? He asked. I don't. Reed does. Eli froze again. Bishop continued. He decides who eats, who fights, who disappears. He knew your brother was asking questions he shouldn't. He tried warning the kid. But your brother wasn't the type to shut up when something's wrong. Eli's throat tightened. He told someone else? Eli whispered. He warned someone? Bishop nodded. He warned me. Told me if he didn't show up the next morning, someone needed to remember why. Eli gripped the notebook. And you remembered. I did, Bishop said, but I ain't stupid. If I spoke up, I'd end up the same way. Eli stared at him. You're telling me Reed killed my brother? Bishop shook his head. No, Reed doesn't kill anybody, he said softly. He just gives permission. Eli's pulse thundered. So who actually? Darius, Bishop said, and 2 others. Names, Eli demanded. Bishop looked him dead in the eyes. You don't want the names, Eli. I do. You think revenge will fill that hole? Bishop asked quietly. It won't. I've lived long enough to know that ain't how it works. Eli stepped closer. I didn't come here for revenge, he said darkly. I came here for truth. Bishop held his stare, then sighed. He pointed at the notebook, turned to the last page. Eli flipped until he reached the back. 1 sentence. A single, cryptic line. If he finds out what I know, he'll burn this whole place down. Eli whispered. Who? Bishop's eyes darkened. The one who started it all. Eli stared. The one above Reed, Bishop said. The one nobody talks about. Eli felt his blood run cold. There's nobody above Reed except. Bishop nodded slowly. Except the warden. Eli's heart dropped. You're saying the warden ordered my brother's death? Bishop stepped back into the shadows. His voice was low, steady, and final. I'm saying, Eli, your brother died because he discovered what the warden was hiding. Eli didn't feel the cold at first. Not the draft snaking through the vents. Not the thin chill settling into cell 32. Not the usual dampness that clung to every concrete wall in Block D. He felt nothing, just the words repeating in his head. The warden ordered it. He closed the notebook slowly, hands steady even as his heartbeat climbed into his throat. Bishop watched him, unreadable. Sit, Bishop said quietly. Eli didn't. He stayed standing, muscles coiled, chest rising slow but heavy. Eli, Bishop repeated. Sit. Eli finally sank onto the edge of the metal bunk, like his body moved on autopilot. For a long moment, the 2 men sat in silence. Only the dim, flickering light in the hallway seeped under the door, stretching shadows across the floor like reaching fingers. Bishop took a deep breath. You ain't the first man to come in here looking for blood, he said. But you're the first one I ever believed would actually change something. Eli didn't respond. He was staring at the final page again. The last sentence his brother ever wrote. If he finds out what I know, he'll burn this whole place down. He whispered it to himself. What did he know? Bishop leaned back against the wall, metal groaning behind him. You won't like it, he said. I didn't come here to like anything. A faint smile touched Bishop's lips. Fair enough. He folded his arms. Your brother found something the warden buried. Eli stayed silent. He found a shipment, Bishop continued. One that never got logged, never hit the books, never went through state procedures. A shipment of what? People. Eli's head snapped up. What? Bishop nodded gravely. People, inmates, men who never made it to processing. They came through this prison and vanished. Eli felt his fists clench. Bishop held up a hand. That's not even the bad part. Eli's jaw tightened. Then what's the bad part? He asked quietly. Bishop's voice dropped to a whisper. They weren't criminals, Eli. They were men who crossed the wrong people outside these walls. They got sent here to disappear. Eli stared. They were murdered, Bishop continued, buried under false names. Fake fights, fake riots, heart attacks that didn't look like heart attacks. You follow? Eli's breath shuddered once. And my brother discovered that? Bishop nodded. He found paperwork. He overheard a meeting between Reed and the warden. He saw one of the men being dragged out of processing at midnight. Bishop swallowed. He tried to warn people. He tried to get someone to listen. Eli's voice was barely audible. And that's why he died. Not just that, Bishop said. He threatened to expose them. Said he'd write every name, every detail, every body, and slip it into the hands of a lawyer on the outside. Eli closed his eyes. Of course he would. His brother had always been the kind of kid who believed bravery made you invincible. He opened his eyes again. Did he give you the paperwork? No, Bishop said. He hid it. Eli's pulse spiked. Where? Bishop shook his head. I don't know where he put the files. He never told me. He said knowing would put me in danger. Eli's frustration erupted. So I'm supposed to do what? Search the entire prison? Not the whole prison, Bishop said calmly. Just one place. Eli waited. Bishop leaned forward, close enough that Eli could see a thin scar across his left eye. The old storage wing, Bishop whispered. The wing. It's sealed. No inmates allowed. No staff allowed except Reed. Your brother said that's where the bodies disappear. Eli's breathing slowed. E-wing is abandoned, he said. That's what they want you to think. Eli stood again. I'm going there. Bishop grabbed his wrist. Not now, he said firmly. Not alone. Not without a plan. There's no time, Eli snapped. There's only time, Bishop countered. Revenge makes you quick. Truth makes you careful. Which one are you? Eli stared at him. A long moment stretched between them like a bridge over fire. Eli finally pulled his wrist free. I'm both. He turned toward the door. Bishop exhaled slowly. You're going to need help, he said. I don't need anyone. Bishop scoffed. You think you can take on the warden alone? Reed alone? You think Darius is your biggest problem? Boy, there are men in here who've been waiting decades to take a shot at Reed. They'll help you, but only if they trust you. I don't need trust. No, Bishop said, standing. You need fear. The room felt smaller suddenly. Eli watched him. Bishop took a step closer. You got the same fire your brother had, he said. But you? You got something he didn't. What? Cold, Bishop said simply. You're willing to burn quietly. Eli didn't deny it. Bishop continued. You want to survive what's coming? You need three things: a distraction, a map, and a confession. Eli raised a brow. A confession? Bishop nodded. One man on the inside was part of covering up your brother's death. He knows names, places, who paid who. Eli waited. Who? Bishop hesitated, then said it. Officer Tate. Eli's face hardened. Tate, the guard who trembled earlier, the guard who tried to block his path, the guard whose fear didn't come from Eli, but from guilt. Eli's voice dropped to ice. How do I make him talk? Bishop handed him a folded piece of metal, thin, sharp, shaped like a wedge. You don't need to stab him, Bishop said. Just let him see it. Let him think you will. Tate's a coward. Cowards drown themselves in the truth. Eli tucked the metal into his waistband. Bishop stepped back. One more thing, he said. Eli paused. The warden doesn't know you're here yet, Bishop said softly. But when he finds out, his eyes went cold. He'll try to kill you exactly the way he killed your brother. Eli walked toward the door, then stopped. Why are you helping me? He asked. Bishop's answer was quiet, too quiet. Because I owe your brother, he said, and because one day you'll owe me. Eli didn't like that answer, but he didn't question it. He opened the cell door. Before stepping out, Bishop spoke again. Oh, and Eli? Eli looked back. Bishop's gaze burned in the dim light. When you go after Tate, don't let him run. Eli nodded once. I won't. He stepped out of the cell, closing the door behind him. His next target was clear. Officer Tate, the man who knew the truth, and the man who would talk before the night was over. Officer Tate always took the same route. Eli had watched him for exactly 1 hour, long enough to learn Tate's rhythm, sure enough that Tate never noticed. Some guards walked with pride, some walked with boredom, some walked with force, keys clattering like metal thunder. But Tate walked like he wanted to be invisible. Head down, back slightly hunched, shoulders tight, steps quick, nervous. A guilty man's walk. Eli followed 3 steps behind, silent in the darkened hallway outside Block D. The prison was quieter at night, but never silent. There was always something alive in the walls. whispering vents, creaking pipes, distant shouts leaking through steel and concrete. Tate turned the corner toward the hallway that led to the staff room. Eli picked up his pace. In 3 seconds, he closed the distance. By the 4th, he spoke. "Evening, Officer Tate." Tate jumped so hard his keys slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. He spun around, flashlight half raised. What are you doing out of your cell?" Tate stammered. Eli stepped out of the shadows. Calm, controlled, hands loose at his sides. "Walking," he said simply. Tate swallowed. You can't be here. I should radio this in." Eli tilted his head. "You won't." Tate's hand hovered over his radio. Eli took 1 step closer. The hallway light flickered once. "Move 1 inch toward that button," Eli said quietly, "and I'll break your hand so fast your bones won't even know they're missing." Tate froze. Eli kept walking until they were only a foot apart. "You seemed nervous today," Eli said, "when you saw me on the yard." Tate's throat bobbed with a swallow. I wasn't." "You were shaking," Eli said, "not because of what I did to Darius, but because of what you remember." Tate's breathing quickened. "You were there," Eli continued. "You were there when they killed him." Tate stepped back instinctively. "The cameras were... I didn't..." Eli's voice didn't rise. He didn't threaten. He didn't move fast. He didn't need to. "You helped hold him down," Eli said. Tate's entire body locked. His pupils dilated. His lips trembled. His chest started rising too fast. "No," Tate whispered. Don't say that. Don't. You don't understand. I didn't have a choice." "Say it," Eli said. "That's the rule tonight." Tate's breathing turned into gasps. Eli reached into his waistband and pulled out the thin piece of metal Bishop had given him. He didn't raise it. He didn't point it. He simply held it between his fingers. Tate's eyes flashed to it instantly. No, please. Look, I got a family. I can't die in here." "You won't," Eli said flatly. "You'll just remember." Tate blinked, confused. Then Eli pressed a metal wedge against the wall, dragging it down slowly. The scraping sound echoed through the hallway, high-pitched, metallic, ugly, a sound that made nerves rattle. Eli let it screech a moment longer. Then he stopped. "You hear that?" he asked. Tate nodded shakily. "That," Eli said, "is the sound my brother made when he tried to claw his way off that floor while you held him down." Tate's knees buckled. He landed against the wall. "Please," Tate whispered. I'm sorry. I swear to God." Eli crouched down slowly until their eyes were level. "Sorry doesn't matter," Eli said. "Truth does." Tate squeezed his eyes shut. "I couldn't stop it," he said, voice cracking. Reed told me it was just discipline, keeping him still. But then the warden... Eli leaned forward. "The warden what?" Tate put a shaking hand over his mouth. "He ordered it," Tate whispered. "He told Reed the kid had to go. Said he'd talked too much. Said he knew something he shouldn't have known." Eli's jaw clenched. "And you listened?" "I had to." Tate hissed. "You don't know what this place does to guards who say no. Reed said if I didn't help keep the kid still, I'd end up in the ground with him." Eli's voice didn't waver. "You held him?" Tate nodded, tears sliding down his cheeks. "I didn't know they were going to kill him," Tate said. "I swear, I thought it was just another scare tactic. I thought he'd get back up." "He didn't," Eli said. Tate sobbed once. "Who threw the final strike?" Eli asked. Tate's eyes went wide with terror. I can't say his name." Eli raised the metal wedge an inch. Tate's voice broke like glass. "It was Wexler," he cried. "It was Officer Wexler. He hit him too hard. Kicked him when he was already down. Reed told him to. He finished it." Eli's eyes narrowed. Wexler. Eli had seen the man earlier that day, laughing on the tower, chewing gum like the world couldn't touch him. Eli stood up. Tate stayed on the floor, shaking. "One more question now. The question that mattered more than any name." "Tate," Eli said quietly. What was my brother trying to expose? Tate blinked rapidly. He saw the files, Tate stammered. The warden's files. The ones no one's supposed to see. He saw the transfers, the disappearances. Eli's voice went low. Were the files now? Tate's fear sharpened into something worse. A truth he didn't want to share. I don't know, Tate said, but Reed does. And Wexler. And one more person. Who? Eli asked. Tate hesitated. Eli crouched again. Who? Tate whispered. The warden's son. Eli froze. What? Tate nodded frantically. He's not just some kid. He works inside the prison part-time, helps with intake, paperwork, schedules. He's part of the system, and he was there that night. He saw your brother. He signed one of the transfer sheets. Eli felt the world shift, collapsing inward. The warden wasn't just covering up a crime. His son was part of it. Eli stood up. Tate grabbed his leg. You're not going to kill me, right? Tate begged. I told you everything. I gave you everything. Eli looked down at him. You'll live, he said. That's your punishment. Tate's relief flooded so quickly, he nearly collapsed again. But Eli added, you won't warn Reed. You won't warn Wexler. And you won't warn the warden. Tate nodded rapidly. I won't. I swear. I won't say a word. Eli stepped back. One more thing, he said quietly. Tate looked up with wet eyes. Do you regret it? Tate sobbed again. Yes, he said. Every day. Eli nodded once. Good. Without another word, Eli turned and walked down the hallway. Tate's trembling voice echoed after him. You're going to get yourself killed, Eli. Eli didn't turn back. He didn't need to. He whispered, almost to himself, No, I'm going to get them all. Officer Tate did exactly what Eli expected. He panicked. He stumbled down the hallway, wiping his eyes with shaking sleeve, breathing so fast he nearly hyperventilated. He grabbed his keys off the floor with trembling fingers, dropped them once, cursed under his breath, picked them up again. Then, instead of running to Reed, instead of sounding the alarm, instead of calling for backup, he ran the other direction, away from the tower, away from Wexler, away from Eli. He wanted to disappear, to curl up in his car outside and pretend the night hadn't happened, pretend he hadn't confessed, pretend he wasn't part of murder. Eli watched him go from the shadows of the next corridor. Perfect. Tate was terrified enough to stay quiet. That part was done. But Eli felt something shifting in the air. A weight, a disturbance. Someone had heard Tate scream. Someone had noticed Eli was in his cell. Someone knew the balance of power was changing. He felt eyes on him. Not scared eyes. Eyes that hunted. The tower wakens. Captain Reed had been pacing the observation room for half an hour. The moment Tate's voice cracked through the radio earlier, sounding panicked and half-choked, Reed knew. Tate had cracked. He'd seen it before, too many times. Weak men break, like cheap glass. Loyalty? Honor? Integrity? Tate never had any of those. Reed grabbed the radio. Wexler. Report. Static hum, then, what's up, Cap? Reed's voice dropped into its coldest register. Tate talked. A beat of silence followed. Then Wexler's tone sharpened. What did he say? Everything, Reed replied. He told him about that night. Wexler exhaled sharply, almost a laugh, but with fear buried under it. Guess that means your little ghost problem ain't just a rumor anymore. Reed pressed his hand against his forehead. He's not a ghost. He's a mistake. Your mistake, Wexler reminded him. Reed ignored the jab. Find him, Reed said, before he finds anything else. Wexler chuckled darkly. Oh, I'm already on it. Alone in the corridor, Eli walked slowly through the dim hall, his footsteps barely audible. He wasn't moving like prey. He moved like a man who had already accepted he might die tonight and wasn't bothered by it. His mind replayed Tate's confession again and again. Wexler, Reed, the warden's son. Every name was a target. Every breath he took now felt heavier with purpose. He stopped at the intersection between Block D and the admin wing. The lights flickered above him. Once, twice. He wasn't alone. Someone stepped out of the dark behind him. A shadow moved. Eli didn't turn immediately. He listened. The footsteps were heavy, confident, dragging slightly on the right side. He knew that walk. Officer Wexler. Evening, sunshine, Wexler drawled. Eli slowly turned around. Wexler stepped into the light. Tall, thick neck, a permanent sneer etched onto his face. Eyes cold, hands gloved. He was holding something. A baton, but not the regulation one. This one was wrapped in black tape, metal exposed at the tip. A weapon, not a tool. Wexler flashed a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Heard you been a-skin a lot of questions, he said. A skin about the wrong people. Eli said nothing. Wexler shrugged. Tate's a coward. Always been. Falls apart if you look at him too long. But me, he tapped the metal end of the baton against his palm. I don't break. I break other people. Eli's silence didn't falter. Wexler stepped closer. You think you're tough because you made Darius kneel? He sneered. Darius is a dog. Big dog, yeah, but still just a dog. I put down bigger. Eli finally spoke. You killed my brother. Wexler's smile widened. Yeah, he said. I did. The honesty was like ice. Eli's jaw flexed, and I liked it. Eli took a step forward, not fast, not threatening. Measured, like he was stepping into a memory. He'd waited 3 years to enter. Wexler rolled his shoulders. You know, he begged at the end, Wexler said. Your brother. Begged. Cried. Said something about his family. Said someone named Eli. Eli moved. Fast. Silent. Deadly. Wexler swung the baton with a grunt, expecting Eli to dodge or back up. Eli didn't. He stepped in. Inside the arc of the weapon. Inside Wexler's reach. Inside his comfort. Eli grabbed Wexler's wrist mid-swing. A twist. A shift. A drop of weight. Wexler's arm bent the wrong direction. His eyes went wide. His grip faltered. The baton clattered to the floor. What the... Eli didn't let him talk. He pulled the man forward, slamming Wexler into the wall with a force that made the plaster crack. Wexler gasped. Eli pinned him with one arm, forearm pressed against Wexler's throat. You remember his face? Eli asked quietly. Wexler struggled. Let me. You remember, Eli repeated. Wexler gurgled. No, Eli pressed harder. Say his name. Wexler's eyes bulged. I don't remember. Eli leaned in closer, voice as calm as the night his brother died. You killed him, Eli whispered. You don't get to forget. Wexler clawed weakly at Eli's arm, kicking his feet. Eli loosened the pressure just enough for air, not comfort. Tell me what the files are, Eli said. Tell me what the warden is hiding. Wexler coughed, spitting saliva onto the floor. You're dead, he rasped. You don't even know what you're up against. Eli lifted his forearm an inch higher against Wexler's neck. Wexler choked. Talk, Eli said, or I'll leave you breathing through a straw. Wexler gasped. E-wing, he finally croaked. The files are in E-wing. Eli's eyes narrowed. He already knew that part. Wexler coughed again, panic spreading like wildfire across his face. But you'll never get in. The warden, he. Eli pressed harder. What about the warden? Wexler's voice cracked. He's moving the files tonight. Reed already took some. His son took the rest. They're sending everything off-site. You're too late. Eli's pulse spiked. Tonight. They were moving the evidence tonight. Wexler tried to sneak a hand toward his belt, where a hidden blade was clipped. Eli caught the movement. He slammed Wexler's head into the wall. Wexler went limp for a moment. Eli grabbed his chin and forced him to look up. You killed him because he saw too much, Eli said. Now you've seen too much. Wexler laughed weakly through bloody lips. You won't make out alive, he whispered. The warden already knows who you are. He's been waiting for you. Eli didn't react. He whispered, Good. He released Wexler, letting him slump to the ground, gasping, coughing, dazed. Eli picked up the baton and dropped it into the nearest trash bin. He didn't need it. He walked past Wexler without looking back. But Wexler spoke one last, shaking sentence. "You think you came here for revenge, but you don't know the truth, Eli." Eli stopped. "You're not the only one who lost someone." Eli turned slightly. "What do you mean?" he asked. Wexler's smile was broken, but real. "Your brother wasn't the only one the warden ordered dead." Eli didn't move. Not at first. Not when Wexler coughed blood onto the floor. Not when the hallway lights flickered again. Not when distant voices echoed from the lower tiers. He just stood there, spine straight, fists loose at his sides, eyes fixed on a man crumpled at his feet. "Say that again," Eli said quietly. Wexler laughed, a broken, wheezing sound. "You heard me," he said, smearing blood across his mouth with trembling fingers. "Your brother wasn't the only one." Eli stepped closer, boots ghosting over the floor. "What are you talking about?" he asked. Wexler pressed his back against the wall, trying to push himself upright. His body shook, his breath uneven, but his smile said he liked holding this last card. "The warden, he doesn't just disappear inmates who talk," Wexler said. "He disappears anyone who gets in the way of his business." Eli narrowed his eyes. "What business?" Wexler wheezed. "You really think this place runs on state money? On budget cuts and stale bread?" No. He spit. "This prison makes money." Eli's jaw tightened. "How?" Wexler chuckled. "Donations, political strings, underground contracts. You name it. You know how easy it is to hide someone in a system like this? Anyone with power, anyone who wants to shut somebody up, they just pay the warden." Eli's blood turned cold. "You're telling me the warden kills inmates for hire?" "Not just inmates," Wexler said. "Anyone who becomes inconvenient." Eli stepped closer, shadow falling over him. "Stop circling," Eli said. "Say what you mean." Wexler's smile dropped. His voice turned low, almost bitter. "I lost someone, too." Eli's expression stayed rigid, but his pulse shifted. Wexler continued. 3 years ago, before your brother died, someone else tried to expose the warden. Someone who found out about the fake transfers, the bodies, the money." Eli's chest tightened. "Who?" Wexler's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with memory. "My older brother," he whispered. Eli froze. Wexler nodded. "He worked here, guard for 17 years. Thought he could stand up to the system. Thought he could fight back. Thought he was better than me." He laughed again. "Maybe he was." Eli's face remained stone. "What happened to him?" Wexler's lips trembled. "Just a flicker. The warden had him beaten to death in the showers," Wexler said. "Made it look like an inmate attack." Eli's breath locked in his lungs. "And Reed made me watch," Wexler said softly. "Made me help cover it up. Said if I said one word, I'd end up next." Eli stared at him. For a moment, Wexler was a monster or a killer. He was a man drowning in guilt that had hardened into cruelty. Wexler laughed bitterly. "So don't stand there acting like you're the only one with ghosts. We all got skeletons in these walls. Some of us just been living with them longer." Eli didn't speak. He didn't offer sympathy. He didn't forgive. But something in him shifted. "Reed controls the guards," Eli said slowly. "And the warden controls Reed." Wexler nodded. "But someone else controls him," Wexler said. "The warden answers to someone else. Someone outside." Eli's eyes sharpened. "Who?" Wexler shook his head. "I don't know, but your brother did." He swallowed. "That's why he died. He knew the warden wasn't acting alone. He knew someone bigger was pulling the strings." Eli felt heat rising under his ribs, not anger, determination. "Where are the files?" Eli asked again. Wexler coughed. Blood dripped from his mouth. "They're not all in E-Wing," he whispered. "Not anymore." "Where?" Eli demanded. Wexler's voice dropped to a rasp. "The warden's son took the final set. He's handing them off tonight. Off-site, once they leave this building." He leaned his head back against the wall. Your brother dies for nothing. Eli stepped closer. How do I get to them? Wexler's grin returned, weak but mocking. You can't. The transfer's happening in the one place you can't reach. He laughed. Admin level. Staff only. Reinforced doors. Guards at every entrance. Cameras everywhere. Eli stared at him. Wexler's grin faded. You planning something stupid? Wexler asked. Eli didn't answer. Wexler laughed again, hollow, tired. Yeah, you are. He looked up at Eli, not with defiance, but with resignation. You're gonna die, Eli, Wexler said quietly. You might take some of us with you, but the warden, the people behind him, you'll never touch them. Eli leaned down slowly. For the first time, he whispered something that didn't sound like vengeance. It sounded like promise. I don't need to touch them, Eli said. I just need to expose them. Wexler's eyes widened, like he didn't expect that answer. Eli stood straight. One last question now. Who else knows the truth? Eli asked. Wexler shook his head. Just read. The warden. His son. Eli took a breath. Then Wexler whispered something that froze the entire hallway. And one inmate. Eli blinked. Who? Wexler's smile returned. Small, twisted, deadly. Someone you already talked to. Eli's breath hitched. His mind raced. Tate? No. Tate was too scared. Another guard? No. Wexler said inmate. Only one inmate had given Eli information. One inmate had been too willing to talk. Slowly, painfully slowly, Eli realized who Wexler meant. Bishop. Eli spoke in a quiet, deadly tone. You're lying. Wexler shook his head. No. Bishop knew everything. He was the first one the warden wanted dead. But Bishop made a deal. He smirked. He made a deal to stay alive. Eli's heartbeat thundered. What deal? He whispered. Wexler's voice turned to poison. He agreed to give the warden your brother's paperwork. Eli stepped back like he'd been punched. Wexler nodded eagerly now, seeing the crack. Yeah, he hissed. Your brother trusted him. And Bishop sold him out. That's why the warden didn't kill Bishop. That's why Bishop's still in cell 32. Because he's useful. Eli's breath shook. He whispered one word. No. Wexler smiled wider. Yes. Eli's hands curled into fists. And then Wexler delivered the death blow. Why do you think your brother died? Because Bishop told the warden what he found. Eli stopped breathing, stopped thinking, stopped hearing the echo of the prison around him. Just one thought, one truth, one betrayal. Bishop, the only man Eli trusted inside these walls, the only man who helped him, the only man his brother trusted, was the reason his brother never walked out alive. Eli whispered, I'm going to kill him. Wexler coughed. You might, he smirked, but you'll never get to the files first. Eli turned away, walked slowly down the hall, and for the first time since he stepped into this prison, Eli's hand was shaking. Eli didn't remember walking. One moment he was standing over Wexler, chest tight, fists trembling. The next, he was halfway down the corridor, moving fast, silent, deadly. Every memory of Bishop's words replayed in his mind in the wrong voice now. Not wise, not guiding, but manipulative. Poison disguised as mentorship. Your brother was the only one who wasn't afraid. He hid the files. The warden ordered it. I owe your brother. No, no. Every line sounded different now. Every pause, every stare. He'd been playing Eli from the moment he stepped into that cell. Eli's heartbeat pounded against his ribs like a fist trying to break out. He reached Tier 3. The hallway stretched long and shadowed. Cell silent except for the occasional cough or muttered dream. But cell 32, the door was open. Not locked, not guarded. Just open. Eli froze at the threshold. Bishop was sitting on his bunk, elbows on knees, hands relaxed, as if waiting, as if he knew Eli would come. He didn't look surprised, didn't look scared. He looked tired, almost relieved. Close the door, Bishop said softly. Eli stepped inside and slammed it shut. The clang echoed like a gunshot. Bishop didn't flinch. You talked to Wexler, Bishop said. Eli didn't answer. Didn't need to. His silence was its own violence. Bishop sighed. I was hoping to explain before you did. Eli snapped. You sold him out. Bishop didn't move. You told the warden about the files. Eli said, about what my brother found. Bishop's eyes stayed steady. You're angry, Bishop said quietly. I get that, but listen. No. Eli took a step forward. You don't get to explain. You told him. You told the warden what my brother found, and that's why he died. Bishop raised one eyebrow, just slightly. You think I wanted him dead? Eli's jaw clenched. You let it happen. Bishop shook his head slowly. No, I prevented worse. Eli's fists curled. Worse than death. Yes, Bishop said calmly. Eli blinked, thrown off for a second by the certainty in Bishop's voice. How? Eli demanded. Bishop leaned back against the wall. Your brother, Bishop said softly, didn't find a file. He found the file. The one that could burn half the state. Names of politicians, judges, businessmen, people who paid the warden to make people disappear. Eli's breath thinned. He gave it to me, Bishop continued, because he trusted me, and he was right to. Eli shook his head, furious. That's not what Wexler said. Wexler, Bishop said, laughing lightly, is a blunt instrument with half a brain. You really think the warden would tell him the truth? Eli paused. Just 1 second. But Bishop saw it, the crack. The warden didn't know your brother gave the file to me, Bishop said. He thought your brother still had it when they dragged him into that hallway. Eli's blood ran cold. He died protecting me, Bishop said quietly. Protecting the location of something bigger than both of us. Eli shook his head. You're lying. Am I? Bishop asked. Then why am I still alive, Eli? Why didn't the warden kill me too? Eli opened his mouth, then closed it. Bishop nodded. Exactly. Eli's heartbeat faltered. Then why did Wexler say? Because Reed told him, Bishop interrupted. And Reed lies to everyone, especially men like Wexler, men who obey without thinking. Eli swallowed. Hard, his world, already broken, began to tilt. Your brother didn't die because of me, Bishop said. He died because he trusted the wrong guard. He told someone before he came to me. Eli's breathing slowed. Who? He asked. Bishop's eyes softened. You already know, he said gently. You just didn't want to. Eli felt the truth before he heard it. The warden's son, Bishop said. Your brother thought he could trust him. Eli's chest tightened. He was young, friendly, polite, the kind of man who pretends to care about inmates. Your brother believed him, told him the whole plan, told him he had proof. Eli felt sick. He didn't know, Bishop continued softly, that the warden was using his own son to filter out threats. Eli whispered, No, your brother trusted him, Bishop said again, and the kid ran straight to his father. The cell tilted around Eli. Betrayal, not from Bishop, from someone his brother believed would help him. Eli took 1 step back, then another. Bishop watched him closely. You still want to kill me? Bishop asked. Eli's fist loosened. I wanted to, he admitted, but now you don't. Eli's voice cracked just once. I don't know. Bishop nodded like he expected that. Eli, the warden's son, is the key. He has the files. He knows the whole system. And he's leaving the prison tonight. Eli inhaled sharply. Leaving? Bishop nodded. He'll hand off the evidence to someone outside. If he does, it disappears forever. Eli steadied himself. Where is he? Admin wing, Bishop said. 2nd floor. Same room they process new guards. That's where the drop's happening. Eli's eyes sharpened with purpose again. How do I get in? Bishop stood, towering over him. You'll need a riot. Eli blinked. A riot? Bishop nodded. That's the only way to pull guards off the admin wing. It'll leave the warden's son exposed, alone, vulnerable. Eli's jaw set. Who starts it? Bishop tilted his head. You, he said. Eli took a slow breath. This is it, Bishop said. This is the moment. You either start a war or your brother's death gets erased like he never existed. Eli looked at the floor. Then he looked up, fire in his eyes. I'll start it, Eli said. Bishop smiled, not a happy smile. A knowing one. You're your brother's blood, he said. But you're colder. Eli headed to the door. One more thing, Bishop said. Eli paused. Read, and the warden won't hide anymore, Bishop said. They'll come for you. Eli didn't blink. They can try. He opened the door. As he stepped out, Bishop whispered, Eli, be careful with the warden's son. Eli turned. Why? Bishop's eyes softened. For the first time, truly softened. Because he's not the man who killed your brother, Bishop said. He's the man who regrets it. Eli froze. What does that mean? Bishop didn't answer. He just closed his eyes. You'll see. Eli left the cell with a final whisper. I'm ending this tonight. Eli didn't remember walking. One moment he was standing over Wexler, chest tight, fists trembling. The next, he was halfway down the corridor, moving fast, silent, deadly. Every memory of Bishop's words replayed in his mind in the wrong voice now. Not wise, not guiding, but manipulative. Poison disguised as mentorship. Your brother was the only one who wasn't afraid. He hid the files. The warden ordered it. I owe your brother. No, no. Every line sounded different now. Every pause, every stare. He'd been playing Eli from the moment he stepped into that cell. Eli's heartbeat pounded against his ribs like a fist trying to break out. He reached Tier 3. The hallway stretched long and shadowed. Cell silent except for the occasional cough or muttered dream. But cell 32, the door was open. Not locked, not guarded. Just open. Eli froze at the threshold. Bishop was sitting on his bunk, elbows on knees, hands relaxed, as if waiting, as if he knew Eli would come. He didn't look surprised, didn't look scared. He looked tired, almost relieved. Close the door, Bishop said softly. Eli stepped inside and slammed it shut. The clang echoed like a gunshot. Bishop didn't flinch. You talked to Wexler, Bishop said. Eli didn't answer. Didn't need to. His silence was its own violence. Bishop sighed. I was hoping to explain before you did. Eli snapped. You sold him out. Bishop didn't move. You told the warden about the files. Eli said, about what my brother found. Bishop's eyes stayed steady. You're angry, Bishop said quietly. I get that, but listen. No. Eli took a step forward. You don't get to explain. You told him. You told the warden what my brother found, and that's why he died. Bishop raised one eyebrow, just slightly. You think I wanted him dead? Eli's jaw clenched. You let it happen. Bishop shook his head slowly. No, I prevented worse. Eli's fists curled. Worse than death. Yes, Bishop said calmly. Eli blinked, thrown off for a second by the certainty in Bishop's voice. How? Eli demanded. Bishop leaned back against the wall. Your brother, Bishop said softly, didn't find a file. He found the file. The one that could burn half the state. Names of politicians, judges, businessmen, people who paid the warden to make people disappear. Eli's breath thinned. He gave it to me, Bishop continued, because he trusted me. And he was right to. Eli shook his head, furious. That's not what Wexler said. Wexler, Bishop said, laughing lightly, is a blunt instrument with half a brain. You really think the warden would tell him the truth? Eli paused. Just 1 second. But Bishop saw it, the crack. The warden didn't know your brother gave the file to me, Bishop said. He thought your brother still had it when they dragged him into that hallway. Eli's blood ran cold. He died protecting me, Bishop said quietly. Protecting the location of something bigger than both of us. Eli shook his head. You're lying. Am I? Bishop asked. Then why am I still alive, Eli? Why didn't the warden kill me too? Eli opened his mouth, then closed it. Bishop nodded. Exactly. Eli's heartbeat faltered. Then why did Wexler say? Because Reed told him. Bishop interrupted. And Reed lies to everyone, especially men like Wexler. Men who obey without thinking. Eli swallowed. Hard. His world, already broken, began to tilt. Your brother didn't die because of me, Bishop said. He died because he trusted the wrong guard. He told someone before he came to me. Eli's breathing slowed. Who? He asked. Bishop's eyes softened. You already know, he said gently. You just didn't want to. Eli felt the truth before he heard it. The warden's son, Bishop said. Your brother thought he could trust him. Eli's chest tightened. He was young, friendly, polite, the kind of man who pretends to care about inmates. Your brother believed him, told him the whole plan, told him he had proof. Eli felt sick. He didn't know, Bishop continued softly, that the warden was using his own son to filter out threats. Eli whispered, No, your brother trusted him, Bishop said again, and the kid ran straight to his father. The cell tilted around Eli. Betrayal, not from Bishop, from someone his brother believed would help him. Eli took one step back, then another. Bishop watched him closely. You still want to kill me? Bishop asked. Eli's fist loosened. I wanted to, he admitted, but now you don't. Eli's voice cracked just once. I don't know. Bishop nodded like he expected that. Eli, the warden's son, is the key. He has the files. He knows the whole system. And he's leaving the prison tonight. Eli inhaled sharply. Leaving? Bishop nodded. He'll hand off the evidence to someone outside. If he does, it disappears forever. Eli steadied himself. Where is he? Admin wing, Bishop said. Second floor. Same room they process new guards. That's where the drop's happening. Eli's eyes sharpened with purpose again. How do I get in? Bishop stood, towering over him. You'll need a riot. Eli blinked. A riot? Bishop nodded. That's the only way to pull guards off the admin wing. It'll leave the warden's son exposed, alone, vulnerable. Eli's jaw set. Who starts it? Bishop tilted his head. You, he said. Eli took a slow breath. This is it, Bishop said. This is the moment. You either start a war or your brother's death gets erased like he never existed. Eli looked at the floor. Then he looked up, fire in his eyes. I'll start it, Eli said. Bishop smiled, not a happy smile. A knowing one. You're your brother's blood, he said. But you're colder. Eli headed to the door. One more thing, Bishop said. Eli paused. Reed, and the warden won't hide anymore, Bishop said. They'll come for you. Eli didn't blink. They can try. He opened the door. As he stepped out, Bishop whispered, Eli, be careful with the warden's son. Eli turned. Why? Bishop's eyes softened. For the first time, truly softened. Because he's not the man who killed your brother, Bishop said. He's the man who regrets it. Eli froze. What does that mean? Bishop didn't answer. He just closed his eyes. You'll see. Eli left the cell with a final whisper. I'm ending this tonight.